Hello there viewers. Unfortunately, the Games Workshop legal shenanigans against its own fanbase are not over yet. So here is yet another depressing video where I will be covering their most recent lawsuit in which they have truly messed up big time. In April 2025, Games Workshop opened a massive lawsuit against 281 different sellers from different platforms ranging from AliExpress, Etsy, eBay and a lot of other web shops. I was first made aware of this by the blog post from Spiky Bits, but as you know by now, I always do my research and got in direct contact with several people on this list to get confirmation directly from the source. I got my hands on the official court case documents and a full list of everybody being sued. I went through the entire list and then sorted everything from items that indeed seemed like valid claims of infringements to items that should have never been on this list at all. Many of these are just questionable and some of them are just straight up bogus claims. Some items on the list I would consider to be just straight up copyright infringements. The worst offender on the list was probably a website literally called Warhammer 40k shop pretending to be official, and of course Games Workshop is well within their rights to take action against that. But this particular type of scattershot lawsuit is very nasty because by design almost all of the sellers will not be properly informed about them being sued. The time frame to take action is very short and it would be very likely that the emails end up in their spam folder. So this is from the PDF document in the email that has been sent out. A lawsuit has been filed against you. Within 21 days after service of this summons, not counting the days you received it, you must serve on the plaintiff an answer to the attached complaints or a motion under Rule 12 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. If you fail to respond, judgment by default will be entered against you for the relief demanded in the complaint. You must also file your answer or motion with the court. So if you do not respond on time and miss the deadline, which is only 3 weeks, they will just immediately consider you guilty of all of these charges. By the time they find out, it is likely that depending on the platform, their online shops would already be closed and their payment accounts frozen. I won't go into the technical details here, but if you want to know how all of that is even possible, you can Google how Schedule A defendants lawsuits work. To illustrate the point, I've already reached out to several people who are on this list. Most of them were completely unaware of the fact that they were actively being sued until I mentioned it to them. This is a completely irresponsible way to protect your IP because lots of innocent people have been caught in the crossfire. Trust me, what I'm about to show you will blow your mind and ask yourself how this type of lawsuit is even legal. Let me show you some examples. A very big portion of the items on the list are all just kinds of different stuff that is compatible with Warhammer but does not claim to be an official Warhammer product. Things like dice, game mats, carrying cases, bases, pencils, terrain, paint holders. These are all marketed as suitable for RPG games like Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder and of course Warhammer. I'm of course not a legal expert, but I don't really see how they are doing anything wrong by saying their product can be used or is compatible with these various game systems. As long as they don't claim they are an official Warhammer product, it should be fine. Games Workshop has a very flimsy case against these and at best only over the use of Warhammer or Citadel in the name of the listing and not the actual product itself. If you thought that was already bad enough, wait until you hear about this particular seller. No Guts No Galaxy is a YouTuber who exclusively makes Battletech content. You can then imagine his surprise when he found out that out of nowhere he was being sued by Games Workshop when he is in no way related to anything with Warhammer. The reason he was being sued was for selling a mousepad on his merch store called Warhammer Mousepad. As it turns out, in Battletech there is a mech called the Warhammer. So once again, the merch he had been selling had literally nothing to do with Warhammer 40k, and any fan of 40k would have instantly recognized that fact. And if there was any doubt, you could have easily found out on the Battletech wiki. I assume they just scraped the internet with something like an automated tool looking for keywords to generate this list, and they did not bother to double check. Or they just assumed it vaguely resembled a 40k Titan without looking at the rest of the context on the website to validate their claim. This just straight up proves how irresponsible this lawsuit is, that they don't even do the slightest bit of due diligence to make sure people being sued were even selling a product related to Warhammer 40k to begin with. And it gets even worse. Not only is the lawsuit frivolous by any means, I'd also go as far as say it strikes me as fraudulent. Let me explain by reading from the official document. Plaintiff, in this case Games Workshop, hired a third-party investigatory to access defendants' internet-based e-commerce stores operating under each of the seller's IDs. So these are the people on the list. The third-party investigator initiated orders from each of the sellers for the purchase of various products all bearing or suspected of bearing counterfeits of the Warhammer marks, and requested each product to be shipped to an address in the Southern District of Florida. The plaintiff conducted a review and visually inspected the branded items for which orders were initiated by the plaintiff's third-party investigator via the seller's IDs, and determined that the products were non-genuine, unauthorized versions of the plaintiff's products. Anyone with half a brain can tell this never happened. There's just no way they have ordered all of these 281 products and visually inspected them on location and then came to the conclusion that yes, every item on this list is indeed a counterfeit of a Games Workshop product. How can all of these be counterfeits when many of the items on the list aren't even sold by Games Workshop? This is just bullshit. So not only did many of these people get unfairly sued, they also get framed by some lawyer who is like, yeah, trust me bro, I checked, when from going through the items it's immediately obvious to everyone that no one has ever bothered to double check this. This is just ridiculous. Of course, I understand that in certain contexts the word Warhammer is relevant when it comes to protecting their IP, but using AI bot scrapers to just randomly scattershot random stuff and sue them like this is extremely harmful. We've already seen this kind of behavior before when they sued a book called Spot the Space Marine that was completely unrelated to 40k. You know, if it happens one time, it can just be a really dumb mistake, but if it happens again and again, we have to conclude that this company is just straight up malicious. They do not deserve the benefit of the doubt. When No Guts No Galaxy found out he was being sued, he contacted a law firm. Fortunately for him, a lawyer was able to get him removed from the list, but it did cost him $900. And in this case, he was actually lucky to find out in time and get in contact with a relatively affordable lawyer that quickly resolved the case for him. If he had not found out in time, it could have ended way worse with much higher legal fees. Many people online are now saying he should countersue Games Workshop, but as we all know, jurisdiction differs between different regions, and the official legal advice he was given by his lawyer was just to let it go because it would not be worth it. So yeah, imagine having almost $1,000 flushed down the drain for absolutely nothing. So even when it's self-evident that you have been wrongly targeted, you won't be getting any of that money back. He had to spend his hard-earned cash to get legal representation when he did absolutely nothing wrong, just because the dumbasses at Games Workshop didn't do the due diligence to check who they are actually suing. He has a family with small children, and obviously he would have liked to much rather spend the money on them instead. You can visit his channel to get the full story on what has happened. Let me remind you that this is not just about him. There are 100 Etsy shops that had got closed immediately due to this lawsuit, and about 70 eBay stores that has been targeted as well. Who knows how many of these has been unfairly accused and are now suffering financial damages because of this. This can seriously ruin people's lives, and it's crazy that Games Workshop will just get away with it. I know technically many of these lawsuits and cease and desist kind of stuff is coming from third-party law firms that are working for Games Workshop, and perhaps nobody at Games Workshop has even seen this list before it went out of the door, but that doesn't let them off the hook. They didn't have to hire these lawyers in the first place. They didn't have to attack their own fanbase like this. They are ultimately the ones who are responsible for all of this. In the previous videos, I've already covered how Games Workshop is trying to destroy the Warhammer fan community, and if that wasn't already bad enough, apparently now even people that have nothing to do with that now have to be hurt in the process. This is just absolutely disgusting and needs to stop immediately. Unfortunately, I don't think it will stop anytime soon. In the meantime, people need to understand that doing literally anything even vaguely related to Warhammer is now serious legal risk. You can randomly end up on these types of lists, and even if you did nothing wrong, you can suffer serious financial damage and can even have your life destroyed. I think this once more proves just how ruthless Games Workshop is, and unfortunately they don't learn, and things will only get worse. I've already warned the community that lore channels are no longer safe. As I pointed out, lots of channels do way more infringing stuff than the people that got onto this list. They use their official artwork for their thumbnails and content, they sell merch and they are monetized with Patreons and ad revenue. So what should Games Workshop think of that? I definitely would not be surprised if it turns out they are already working on a legal case to shut down all Warhammer lore channels. Unless something drastically changes, I think it is just a matter of time at this point. Warhammer is a ticking time bomb right now, and any creator sticking their head in the sand thinking it won't be happening to them is likely going to wake up to a nasty surprise one day. It would be extremely unwise not to take precautions. I'm sorry I have to be a doomsayer, but as unfortunate as it is, I think the hobby, at least the part that engages in content not made exclusively by Games Workshop, will eventually be all but destroyed if this continues. So please share this warning with as many people as you can. That's all for now, stay safe.